On this episode of One-on-One Sports,
we break down the college football playoffs,
recap an exciting MLB postseason,
take a look around the MLS,
and close it off with the worst comebacks in sports history.
All that and so much more.
And it all starts
right now. I'm Ellie Whittington.
And I'm Thomas Hale. It's good to be back, but before we get to the show, Ellie and I are going to come at you with the quick hitters. After the United States' shocking loss to Trinidad, which eliminated the U.S. from qualifying for next year's FIFA World Cup, attention is shifted to who will lead the American Federation into the future. With current President Sunil Gulati unlikely to remain past his current term, the candidates are continuing to grow in number. So, Ellie, who do you think is going to take over as the president of U.S. Soccer?
What a big question going on right now in U.S. soccer.
Big deal.
I'm going with Carlos Cordero. He is currently in a position just kind of to slide into this position.
Yeah.
He's been heavily involved in the business aspect. He's been treasurer, since 2008. And I don't care what you think about sports, but it's a business. And someone that knows how to run the money, run the team, run the system, that is who is set to do it.
The issue I have with your choice there is that Cordero was the VP president right there, and so he's part of the problem with U.S. soccer.
Oh,
that's the whole reason why these guys are totally bad. So I think we need to change it up right now. Let's bring in Landon Donovan, a U.S. national hero. He is the MLS all-time top scorer and assist leader. He's also the U.S. men's national team all-time top scorer and assist leader.
I believe that just because you're a good player does not mean that you're a good
This
leader.
man has been ingrained in the MLS for so long, ever since it became a thing, ever since American soccer became popular. And what better person to lead it into the future? He's been there since day one.
Okay, I respect your opinion. Darrell Bubba Wallace Jr. recently partnered with Richard Petty Motorsports and will drive the iconic 43 car next season. Wallace will be the first black driver at NASCAR's highest level for 11 years and only the fourth driver ever. So, Thomas, what does this mean for the sport of NASCAR?
We talked about this earlier. It opens up a totally new market to NASCAR, as you talked about. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, so he is the first black driver since 1961 too. There's been some fill-ins, but only 4 in all of NASCAR. And I think that NASCAR is one sport that is just not added in this diversity aspect.
Absolutely.
And I think that this opens up a whole new fandom. I was reading, and NASCAR fans are all white, Southern. It's just the demographic.
Typically, yeah.
So putting a black driver into this, then you are putting a whole new fan base. I hope that we start seeing diversity on the track as well as in the stands.
And we talked about he's got the number 43 car now. He's with Tom Petty's team, and what better guy, Richard Petty's team, excuse me.
No problem.
And what better guy to start off your career with to really get you into the doors? He's one of the best drivers of all time.
And NASCAR started this Drive for Diversity program in 2004 where they added in for promoting female and minority drivers. And it's taken a while for this to start off. We've only seen one female driver and now the first black driver in several years.
Great to see the change.
I think that comparing this to kind of women's gymnastics is what I compare it to. So Gabby Douglas joined the Olympic team. She was the first black gymnast in a long time. And now we've seen this trend where, Simone Biles, one person does it, and then every young girl wants to be that person. And I hope that every NASCAR driver wants to be Bubba Williams because they can see that you can do it.
And it always starts somewhere, and I'm glad it's starting. Let's see what happens in the future now.
Okay, sounds good.
An incredible World Series between the Astros and Dodgers capped off an amazing season, but a small shadow still hangs over this season. With every home run record being broken, both in the regular and postseason, many MLB pitchers have questioned whether the baseballs are juiced. During the World Series, both pitching staffs claimed the balls were slick, making breaking pitches, particularly sliders, more difficult to throw. So Ellie, are baseballs juiced, or is this just an excuse for poor pitching?
I don't think it has anything to do with poor pitching. I think it has to do with good hitting.
Oh, okay.
And I think that the baseballs are not juiced and that these hitters are just hitting the ball extremely well.
I gotta say, I was doing a little research, and
Tell me what you think.
Yeah, I think that they are juiced.
Why?
And when we talk about juice, we're talking about how bouncy the baseball is. The baseball can smack off that bat, go a little bit further. So they changed the balls in the second half of the 2015 season.
No.
Yes, they did. They got brand new balls.
Who is they?
MLB.
The MLB just throws in some new balls and say, let's have interim
Yes, they were getting balls manufactured in China, and then they got ones manufactured in Costa Rica. And ever since then, from 2014 to 2017, home runs have been spiking year by year.
This is a theory, for one. Let's mention this theory. This came about in the
sticking with the
1990s.
theory.
And you know what? I think that the only people that mess with balls is Tom Brady and the Patriots.
Oh, my goodness.
But that's
Are we
my
opening
personal
up
opinion.
another gate right now? I'm not doing that right now.
But I do not think that the MLB messed with balls.
Fine.
Just fundamentally, the hitting was so much better. That's what I'm going with, that they hit the ball. The pitchers did a great. We had good pitching. It's not like they threw the ball and it hit the ground or something.
When Clayton Kershaw and Yu Darvish have terrible games like that, something doesn't make sense.
Lost the World Series, so maybe he's just
something's
complaining.
fishy here.
Okay. After a tremendous first half of the season, Houston Texans star rookie quarterback Deshaun Watson had his year come to an abrupt end, tearing his ACL in practice this past week. This throws the AFC South, an already weak division, into complete, just terrible thing going on right now. In light of the Watson injury, who do you think will take the AFC South? Excuse me.
Let's give it to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Why not? It's about time that they won a little something right now, right?
The whole AFC South is a disaster in itself.
Yeah, and so I'm going to give it to the Jags. They've got a stellar defense, top pass defense in the league, most sacks in the league right now. They're crushing everybody else. Really, the next best team has 6 behind.
Let's talk about that. Carolina Panthers. Well, they're not in the AFC South, but I'm going with the Tennessee Titans.
Okay.
And they're actually ahead of your Jacksonville Jaguars right now.
They're tied.
And I think that, but they're tied, but the Titans are ahead because they beat the Jaguars.
Let me tell you, then tell me why the Jags have more points scored and then less points allowed.
Well, tell me why the Titans beat the Jags.
That's one game. That's one game.
Okay, but
we
also
got
the rest
plenty
of the
games
season,
to go.
they're playing the Jags at home. The Titans are going to play them in Tennessee.
At the end of the season, correct?
Yes, that's the last game of the season. The Texans have they have to play the Texans, the Colts. Neither teams are doing well. I think that the Titans have those in the bag. The Bengals, they play this coming weekend.
And the Jags play very similar teams as well, but I think the Titans have a little bit of a tougher schedule, and I think they're going to lose one of those games.
No, they don't. They play the Colts, the Bengals, and the Jags. Tougher schedule.
They're going to lose one.
Lose one. Okay,
I'm calling it now.
Okay, Titans going with AFC South. I'm calling that for Texans.
All right,
for Texans.
Before our final quick hitter, we here at 101 Sports would like to take a brief moment of silence to honor former MLB pitcher Roy Halladay, who tragically passed away earlier this afternoon in a plane crash in the Gulf of Mexico. Halladay was an 8-time All-Star and 2-time Cy Young winner in his 16-year career with Toronto and Philadelphia. He was 40 years old. So, Ellie, let's talk about Roy Halladay and his career. What do you say?
It's so sad. Any tragic accident is extremely sad. His MLB career had ended, and he had a very good one at that, and that's something to be remembered. I know that his teams have released a statement how sad they are about this, but just a phenomenal player. So sad to hear this. You know, just an incredible pitcher.
Yeah, and he had those 2 no-hitters and one in the postseason, which was, I believe, the second time that happened in history.
Yes, and a Cy Young winner in both leagues. So it's extremely incredible.
Let's take a quick moment of silence for him.
I agree,
How about it?
We're very sad about his loss.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you so much. That is all the time we have for the Quick Hitters, but don't worry, I will be joined by the desk by Brad Keller and a very special guest to break down the first month of the NHL season. Stay tuned to see who our guest is. With about a month of NHL action already in the books, fans are starting to get a sense of who the top teams in the league are. However, it's still early in a long season, and I'm joined at the desk by hockey experts Brad Clear and our special returning guest, Stu Simonite, who is a veteran of one-on-one. They're going to discuss which of the division leaders are contenders or for the cup or pretenders. First, we're going to start off with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Brad, do you want to kick us off?
So yeah, I'm going to say, and this is going to be one of the few for this group of teams, I think they are a contender. I think they have a deep offensive core led by one of the best players in the league, Steven Stamkos. I like Andrei Vasilevsky in net. I think Victor Hedman's one of the best defenders in the league. Deep team. I know they had a bad year last year. They went far 2 years ago. I think that's going to happen.
So one of the things with the Lightning is that for the past couple seasons, Stamkos has had issues staying healthy. If he can stay healthy, that just dual offense of him and Kucherov is unbeatable. And it helps that they play in the worst division in hockey.
Yeah, great guys.
But one thing we also need to take into consideration is there's been less than 15 games played here.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna.
So this is.
Yeah, that's true. I said we're just kicking off a month. We're gonna go to the New Jersey Devils. Do you want to kick us off, Stu?
Sure. I think that the Devils are a bit of an interesting case because they are in what I consider the strongest.
Are they a
division in hockey.
contender or
They
a
are,
pretender?
They are a contender right now. Despite the fact that they do have the Blue Jackets and the Pittsburgh Penguins in their same division, I think if they can keep up the play that they have with the offense that Taylor Hall has set,
I think it's a
then
combination
they're
of
do pretty
multiple
well.
factors here. Like you said, the Metro Division, it's too complicated. It's too deep. There's too many good teams. And honestly, if you look at just a deep playoff run, they can't beat Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they can.
No, they can't.
Yeah, they can.
No way.
Okay.
I don't think it's sustainable. I say they're a pretender.
Okay, guys, let's go with the St. Louis Blues.
Same thing here. I think they're a pretender also. I'm not big with Jake Allen as my postseason goalie. No, I don't know what it is. I just don't trust him in the playoffs. And I feel like there are better teams out there in the West that can beat them. I think Edmonton is a better team
Despite
than St.
the
Louis.
fact that they only have 9 points right now.
Yes, but I think that they have the most talented team in the West and will bounce back.
What are your thoughts on the Blues?
The Blues, I think, are definitely a team that can make a playoff run, but it depends on whether or not their team can stay healthy. They have a current health concern with Vladimir Tarasenko, who is by far their leading scorer.
Without him, they can't go anywhere.
Without him, of course, but he is playing against the Devils, so that'll be a fun match to watch. And Jake Allen is a proven veteran as a goalie. Granted, he hasn't won his cup yet, but very few goalies in the last few years have.
That's true.
Well, you got to score goals to win.
Exactly.
Let's go to the LA Kings. Brad, you start us off.
Continuing the theme, I'm going to say they're a pretender also.
Really?
Yes. I really don't. I just don't see. I think there's very, very few teams in each conference that I can really see being true cup contenders.
No.
I don't see the Kings as true
Kings
cup
are a contender.
contenders.
The Kings have the best roster in hockey right now.
You really think so?
I really think so, and especially it helps that Jonathan Quick is their goalie. He's playing lights out and has been this entire season, to where the point where their stacked defense really hasn't come into the equation. I think if they can get by the Blues and especially the Blackhawks, where Corey Crawford is having a career year, then that team's going to be something special. We're going to see, calling it right now, Tampa Bay, LA.
Well, guys,
that's
we
your
have
final.
Really?
That's your
That's
final.
bold.
We have the Penguins that have won the past 2 Stanley Cups. Are they going to do it again?
Before the year, we had a segment on here where I said it was going to be Edmonton over Pittsburgh. Obviously, Edmonton hasn't gone off to that start. I think in the East, it's going to be Pittsburgh or Toronto ending up in the finals, and in the West, it's going to be Pittsburgh or Toronto in the East, and Edmonton or Chicago.
You going with another Penguins Stanley Cup?
Nope. I'm sticking with what I just said. Tampa Bay, LA. You're gonna have this great goalie matchup. You're gonna have Stamkos finally getting to the, to the Cup
Getting to the
final.
pinnacle for a
and
good
depending
player,
on
yeah.
whether or not Chicago keeps going with Saad, Kane, Taves, you're gonna have this amazing lineup, amazing matchup once we hit the playoffs. Assuming everyone can stay healthy and no crazy shenanigans
Guys,
happen
we have
throughout the rest
a
of the
little
season.
while to the playoffs. That's all the time we have for the NHL block, but don't go anywhere because we will be headed to the gridiron with Thomas for some college football.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning. 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash? 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
Now it's time for This Week in Bad Stats.
Bad stats?
Horrible stats. Here goes. 132.
That's how many batters struck out 4 times in one game last season.
Wow, very good. Here's a tough one, though. 3 and 4.
No idea.
That's how many kids witness bullying. 3 out of 4.
That's not a good stat.
No, it's not, but it can change. Kids want to help, but they don't know how. Visit stopbullying.gov and give them the tools they need to help prevent bullying.
There are plenty of safe ways kids can help at stopbullying.gov.
College football playoff season is coming fast, and with all the upsets in the recent weeks, the question is which 4 teams will ultimately end up playing for the championship. I'm joined at the desk by Ennis Warlick and Don Vernazza to discuss who will be vying for the championship. So guys, let's kick things off. Which upset in the last 2 weeks has been the most devastating to a team? Dom?
For me, it's got to be Iowa over Ohio State. Because look,
huge.
you see some other upsets, and it tends to be close games. Maybe conditions were bad. There's kind of an excuse you can kind of use. There's no excuse.
Absolute blowout.
They lost 55-24. Wow. I mean, and I think in the past, Ohio State's kind of snuck in because they looked good. Like maybe their resume wasn't the best, but they looked good. They did not look good.
All right, well, they clearly didn't look good, and obviously there's no denying that they got killed in that game. But I'm going to go with Penn State over Michigan, or losing to Michigan State this past week. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because they lost the previous week. They've showed that they can't keep a lead. They just showed it against. They showed it the previous week against Ohio State. They were the third best team in the nation, and to be completely honest, they hadn't shown that they
Here's
were.
the thing, though.
They were
Michigan
really that
State
strong.
is a ranked team. Iowa is not, and also that game, I don't even know if you should really count it. They played in a monsoon. I mean, that was just torrential downpours. How are you going to get a
right? But the question is, who ruined their chances? And by losing 2 straight losses.
But I think Ohio State, like you said, they have no chance now. But I think they had a stronger chance of making it before.
I could have told.
Now so they went from 80% to 0, whereas
Penn
State went from 60 to 0.
I had Ohio State
Everyone
losing to
sees
Wisconsin.
Iowa as one of those trap teams that when you go there and
they
sometimes
definitely
they'll
are,
come out and surprise
but
you.
I feel like they're just not as good a team as Michigan State. And honestly, if you want to be a playoff contender, you don't lose to trap games. That's just a game you cannot afford to lose. But I think before that, even Ohio State was in pole position. I think they were going to beat Wisconsin. They had beaten Penn State, so they seem like the most likely of these teams to make the playoffs. After this game, it's done. You're not getting it.
Let's move on. So after all this madness, the dust settled a little bit. So which teams are going to be going to the playoffs? Ennis?
It's got to be Bama. You have to put Bama in there.
Slide them in there.
You have to put Notre Dame in there.
Wow.
You have to have Georgia in there.
That's 3.
You have to put Georgia in there.
And then after that, it's kind of a toss-up. I'd probably put Clemson in it.
Okay. Clemson, why?
Clemson just plays defense. They play pretty good offense, but it's got to be. It's just Clemson. Their defense is way too good.
All right, Dom?
I just think there's no way. Now, we're assuming that Alabama's going to beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, right?
Yes.
So you're telling me you're going to put a team that didn't win its conference championship over a team that did, Oklahoma, when I'm assuming they're going to have the same record.
You're putting Oklahoma in there instead of
yes,
Georgia.
I'm putting the Big 12 champion in with 1 loss over the SEC loser with 1 loss. Yeah, that's
okay.
That's what
Now
I'm
losing
do.
to Bama isn't that bad.
No, it's not.
Bama is clearly, in my opinion, they're clearly the best team in the nation.
I would agree.
Georgia's rushing attack is ridiculous this year. Their defense is ridiculous this year, and they're going to whoop Auburn.
But here's the thing. Baker Mayfield also has some huge wins. They beat
Oklahoma
Ohio
doesn't
State.
play any defense either.
Ohio.
They don't play any defense.
You don't need to play defense if you can score as much as they do. They beat Ohio State. They beat Oklahoma State.
They're
barely
barely beating
these
unranked teams, Dom.
It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there's no way the playoff committee is going to put, if they have the same record, a team that didn't win its conference championship over a major conference championship
What's Oklahoma
winner.
got that Georgia doesn't have?
Conference championship.
Simple
Big
as
12.
That's all it is. That's all it takes, sounds like, boys. Well, hey, got a lot of football to play still. That's all the time we got to pass around the pigskin, though. Don't go anywhere, guys. Ellie's going to be taking a swing at the MLB postseason.
Another MLB postseason is in the books, and it was one of the most exciting in history. We're bringing our baseball experts Matt Hozoffel and Jimmy Longo into the studio to recap the biggest storylines as we wrap up the season. So, guys, what or who was the biggest surprise of the playoffs?
I'm going to go with the Dodgers. Very surprised. I thought that the Diamondbacks were going to beat them, and I thought it was going to be like a little more interesting.
The team with the best record in baseball, you thought they weren't going to make it out of the AL or the NLDS, rather?
They're so inconsistent, and especially in the playoffs, we saw it. I mean, World Series.
They made the World Series.
Yeah, but they're they make mistakes. They make simple mistakes, like not starting Clayton Kershaw, your best pitcher in Game 7, biggest game. Everything's on the line in Game 7. Don't start him.
And even with that, they're just so much farther ahead than every other team in the NL. It seemed like in the playoffs, it was like a shoo-in. Everyone said they're going to make the World Series, they're going to win, and they got to that last step. And obviously, the Astros were fantastic. But we always
say that about the first team, and I just didn't feel it this year with them. I mean, Yasiel Puig and Cody Bellinger and Corey Seager all had great regular seasons. Don't get me wrong, but have they gotten to that stage where they could be consistent in the postseason? And I wasn't sure that they were going to be consistent.
So you weren't surprised that they lost?
I was surprised that they made it that far.
Oh, gotcha. Matt, who are you going with?
I said the Yankees. I think for such a young team to do so well in the playoffs, winning 4 straight, winner go home games, that was huge for them, for their confidence as a young team, and especially when people didn't even expect them to go outside of the wild card game against the Twins.
Okay, let me disagree with you on this. I was sitting in an office in July, and I looked on the computer and I saw Brian Cashman making these trades, wheeling and dealing, by the way. Sonny Gray, David Robertson, Todd Frazier, these guys are big guys. And he was swinging for the fences. Let me tell you, he was not settling. He wasn't settling for a wild card loss. He was trying to get
beat the
to
Indians.
the World Series.
They're going to beat the team with the second best record in baseball and make it to the ALCS.
I mean,
That was a huge surprise, and it was great for the Yankees organization.
With the offense that the Yankees had with Judge
You were not
and Sanchez,
surprised.
I wasn't
This
surprised
was
at all.
supposed to be a rebuilding year. All this young talent coming up,
At the
making
beginning
their
of the
MLB
year,
debuts.
and then the All-Star game, All-Star break happened, and it just blew everything
They're a
wide
surprise
open.
for the whole season then, not just for the playoffs. The whole season was shocking, was excellent for the Yankees organization. Obviously, losing to the world champion Astros eventually is fine because they went on to win the World Series.
that they were going to make it
The
to
season
LCS.
is over this year. Let's move on to next year. Are the Astros going to do it again next year?
No.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's hear reasoning.
First of all, we look at guys like Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa. They're the core of the Astros lineup, right? George Springer has this amazing postseason coming out party, World Series MVP. Now they have this three-headed monster of Springer, Correa, and Altuve who are just absolutely going to light it up on the offensive side of the ball. And then when you look at defense last year, not even defense, pitching, Dallas Keuchel, Lance McCullers, Charlie Morton all had injury-plagued seasons.
Let's go back to the Yankees and let's talk about how young they are. They are probably the youngest team. Yes, they're winning the World Series next year.
No Astros.
Quote me on that. I'm telling you, 241 home runs, 821 RBIs, and their ERA combined was 3.33.
Well, I guess, I don't know about you guys, but I'm already counting down to opening day.
Me too.
And with that, the MLB season is officially over. We are now into free agency, and I will be taking my talents elsewhere while Thomas comes back to discuss the MLS playoffs.
I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
Here's your check.
Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
You sure you don't want some? It's chamomile. Listen, you are extremely terrifying. Just the scariest undead subhuman thing on TV, and I really mean that. But I am worried that you could give my kids nightmares if they see you, so I'm gonna have to block you. So that's it. Oh, and tell the zombies they're blocked too.
Hello and welcome back to this episode of 101 Sports. The MLS playoffs are underway, and so far we've seen some pretty lopsided ties. After demolishing the San Jose Earthquakes 5-0, the Vancouver Whitecaps lost to the defending champs 2-0 on aggregate. The Seattle Sounders look primed to repeat, but is there a team out there that can challenge Clint Dempsey and company? Jenny, what do you think?
I don't think that's the right question here. I think the question to me is, can anybody take down the East, which was significantly better than the entire Western Conference the whole season?
And there's a reason, because you saw the top seed in the Western Conference go down to Houston.
Right, and I mean, we're talking about Toronto FC, which in the East, which is arguably the best MLS team ever assembled.
They are filthy.
And so,
as long as they can keep themselves on the field.
Right, as long as they're not sabotaging themselves. Hello, Josie Altidore, what are you doing?
And Jovinko.
Hey, he's getting old.
But Josie Altidore, I mean, at least Jovinko, it was yellow card accumulation. He'll be back. We don't know if Josie Altidore will be. He got a violent conduct red card.
What a moron.
It's just stupid. But what I also think is interesting with the West is just how I think there's so much more parity there, where you can have any of those teams knocking each other off. And I don't think your Houston Dynamo, unfortunately, are one of the strongest teams in the field there.
No, and you look at this Eastern Conference, I agree with you. It's really who can beat the East, because not only do you have this Toronto FC team, you have a Columbus Crew team who basically had their owner light a bonfire underneath them and give them every single bit of motivation just to annoy him and just to make him look like a fool.
Doing a pretty good job, too.
And if the Columbus Crew win this, we're talking about one of the best stories in sports. It's one of those ones that anybody can get behind as a neutral fan. The owner is trying to move the team away from a fan base that has been die-hard for this team. And all of a sudden, now they're going to possibly win the MLS Cup.
And it continues to pile more of a lot of fun in this offseason, not only for the United States as far as what are they doing as a national federation, but in the offseason for the MLS as well, because now you have a story of, does this owner kind of go back on his word? Does he follow through? Does he be really stubborn?
If they win the cup, do they move?
I still think they move, because Anthony Precourt looks two-faced if he then goes back on his word. He looks like an idiot regardless, but if he goes back on his word and says, oh, now that we won MLS Cup, now I'm going to give Columbus fans what they want. You look like an idiot.
I still think that the problems that he talks about with Columbus will still exist whether they win the MLS Cup or not. But I do think that if you're talking about something you write on the whiteboard in your locker room saying like, hey, we need to win this, it's that your owner is going to move your team and you got to give one last show to these fans.
Yeah, you are
so guys,
doing
let's
this
get back
for
to
your
the
fans.
original question. I'm just going to have you guys make your picks real quick. Who's winning the MLS Cup, Jenny?
If Toronto doesn't sabotage themselves, it's got to be Toronto. They're the favorites. Giovinco is one of the best players to ever play in the league, and nobody can beat him when he's on his game.
Maybe the best. I agree with you. As long as Toronto survives leg number 1 against Columbus, doesn't concede a couple of goals, they know that they're going to hopefully get their best player back in the second leg, maybe even Altidore as well. As long as they can survive leg 1, they're winning MLS Cup.
All right, sounds good. Any surprise losses you guys see in the future?
Seattle could lose to Houston.
Yeah.
Seattle could lose to Houston.
I'd say a surprise loss could be Columbus really coming out strong on that first leg. And as you said, Toronto could concede a couple of goals, and now all of a sudden you're behind the 8 ball. That makes it tough. And as we said, Columbus has all the motivation.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, a lot of soccer to be played. Thank you very much. That's all the time we have for this block. But don't worry, Ellie will be joining me at the desk to discuss the worst comeback attempts in sports history.
When athletes retire, they may not always stay retired. Some return for the love of the game. Others might need cash inflow. No matter the reason, they come back to the game they love, even if it isn't for the best. So, Thomas, what is the worst comeback in sports history for you?
I can't think of just a better, worse comeback than Brett Favre. Brett Favre. He retired in 2008. Packers legend. Everybody loved him. Big old cheesehead. And so he comes back and he goes to the Jets for a year in 2009 and he plays a little bit there. He does all right. But then he just does the absolute unthinkable. And the next year he moves to the Minnesota Vikings, Packers' biggest rival in football pretty much, top 2 at least next to the Bears. They hate each other, absolutely hate each other. And Brett Favre goes out there, he has a great season.
Exactly, so that's a good comeback.
No, that's so mean. That's just
evil.
It's great.
Well,
evil.
He helped the Vikings. I think
he helped the Vikings and ripped the heart out of every Green Bay Packers fan over there.
So you think he's just an evil player, an evil dude?
I mean, he's got good Wrangler commercials. Love his jeans.
Well, I doubt that the Packers are going to say any mean things for the most part about a guy that helped them so much.
I'd say legacy-wise, they still love him, but oh man, that's a mean thing to do right there.
Well, Thomas, I'm going with Tiger Woods. Comeback after comeback. We're still waiting for another comeback, and I just think he's done.
He's going to win.
He's going to win what?
Oh, there's no way. I'm just joking.
Okay. I am just not feeling this Tiger Woods thing. You know, when we were growing up, he was the face of golf, and this guy has fallen off. You know, I met Tiger Woods last year, and I was just so disappointed by the person. And
the man he's become.
Okay, he was going to do a comeback then, and then he got arrested for this DUI, and now we're hearing this comeback in the past week. He's coming back again, and it's just a fail. Tiger, go work on.
I mean, he wants to win one more major. There's nothing wrong with that. Follow his dreams, but at the same time, he keeps having these little workout regimens, and they don't work.
He's hit his peak.
Yeah.
Tiger is done, and we have
Jordan
some new
Spieth.
faces. Yeah, Jordan Spieth fan,
Hook 'em horns,
Texan,
baby.
a Texan. I mean, yes, Spieth is great, and Tiger just needs to kind of stay in hiding. I want to say it might be better for his PR. And
I don't think anyone's gonna be able to convince him.
I
though.
am
He
a
seems
Brett
pretty set.
Favre, Tiger Woods. That's things not even comparable. That is all the time we have for this episode of 101 Sports.
Huge thanks to all producers, crew, and talent here at 101 Sports, and you, the viewer, for tuning in.
If you missed anything, make sure to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, all at 101 Sports. For all of us here at the show, thanks for watching and tuning in.
And as always, whose side are you on?